Hello, YouTubers. This is Joe Bravo with Moebravo's Knife Reviews, and today I have brought out my collection of keepers, and these are my keepers as of right now. I'm going to talk about some of my favorites, some of the ones that are going to be longtime keepers, some of the ones that are keepers for now, but I might make some modifications. It's really great to throw everything out there and talk about what really speaks to you. I haven't done that yet for the channel, and I'm very excited to today. If I had to pick my favorite knife out of the group, and it's very, very hard to do, it would either be between the Anton knives, Rika. I mean, this is just flat out fantastic. Custom made South African Damascus inlay, cracked ice nebula blade steel. The pivot on this thing looks like a nebula. It is awesome. You could stare into that thing for hours. Also, the pocket clip, out of control, with the backspacer, out of control, and the action is out of control. So everybody knows I'm an action whore. I love it. This guy is fantastic, and it is probably one of my favorites, and definitely in that category of forever keeper. The next one I'd have to say is my Cortex. Brown Knives Cortex, Craig Brown, not Brian Brown. He does an amazing job with the level of detail. He is an aerospace engineer, and it speaks to me because he has a very innovative design, how the blade catches the blade stop. The action on this thing is lights out. Spidey flick, pointer finger flick. You could even do a thumb roll if you get frisky. It's just out of control. And the best thing about this thing, it's slim, it's light, it'll fit in your pocket. All right, the Zerk one is not as light as the carbon fiber one, but let's not talk about that. This guy does have some dark zirconium, or dark Damascus, I forget, backspacer and clip. So again, it's also adding to the weight, but that weight does an amazing job of balancing the knife in your hand. When I first got it, I thought it was going to be heavy because I had two carbon fiber versions beforehand. This really trumps them all. I sold my Blue Marvel recently, and I am in the process of selling my green twill carbon fiber, only because the Zerk weight and the feel in the hand is that good that I don't think I need 3 Cortexes anymore. Now, before this week, I probably would have said my Craig Brown LHCX V1 is my favorite, but I'm going to tell you that this freaking knife, my Robert Carter NCC collaboration BBM V2, has really taken the cake at being one of my favorite knives to play with. It carries well in the pocket, and this fuller is so fun. I got big hands. This is a little knife. If I wanted to reverse booger flip, reverse shocker flip this thing, I don't even have to get inside the spider hole. That's, maybe one of the knocks about the Cortex that I haven't had an issue with now that I've been able to get the pad of my finger inside that hole and flick, is that the spidey hole in there is a little thin, and it's a little small. But once you get the technique down, I've had no problem deploying that. The BBM, it solves that. So much so, I'm looking for other knives that have a functional fuller like that. I mean, look at where my hand is on the fuller. I'm nowhere near the spider hole. Now, if I had to manipulate the knife to get the fingertip or my fingernail inside that hole, I'd be fucking miserable. Miserable. This thing has so much of a crevasse that I could just get a little bit of my fingernail in there and spidey flick for days. And, you could spidey flick with your pointer finger. You could spidey flick with your ring finger, and the detent is so perfect. I don't want to call it Arius light, but as soon as it reaches outside of that detent, there it is. I mean, really, really, really enjoying that knife. So now I'm going to go to my LHCX V1. Buddy of mine gave me a hell of a price on this thing, and it's funny because he wasn't the original owner, and I had talked to somebody who was the owner before that person. So it's always nice to see how different knife owners take care of their knives. This person decided that they wanted to do a little flame anno job, or get a little oxidation on there. I'm sorry, the lighting, you can't really capture that, but the deployment, the hydraulic closing, ceramic bearings, Craig Brown style, just amazing. And it carries so nice in the pocket. They called this the V1 or the V2 or the V3. This pocket clip is different than the pocket clip that's on the Cortex and the LHCX V2 right now. And this is, I feel, a better pocket clip than the one that was on the LHC. That was the titanium milled, and it was a little stiff in the pocket. My exponent had one as well. But the pocket clip on this LHCX V1 is fantastic. So I know everybody's wondering what's next. I'm going to have to go with my Specter. Now, I've had a whole bunch of Specters. They come, they go. I sell them. That's just how it is. This one's a keeper. And it came to me with a very loose pivot. And as soon as I got it, I got tremendously discouraged. Messaged the guy that sold it to me, said there was no issue. And I realized it probably got loosened up during shipping. So I took the whole thing apart, and you're like, wow, you gotta take apart a $1,200 knife, or $1,600 knife, or a $800 knife. You take the whole thing apart, and you realize how easy it is to work on that knife. I made an adjustment to the detent, so it's a little snappier. And you can see, the LHCX V1 has a great deployment. But this is snappier. This is harder. The drop shot's less hydraulic, but that's okay because this is also a lot of fun to manipulate. I thought about selling this because it's a Specter and you can get a good bang for your buck on that, but this is going to be a keeper. I've pocketed this. I've carried this. I haven't used it yet. And to be honest, I'm not sure how much severe use I'm going to use. I would like one like this in Stonewash 2.0, but I'm not sure if that's going to deter me from keeping my V4 Specter. I think they call that the checkered pattern. And man, I'm just really enjoying it. I had a couple of the others with the pinstripes. This one speaks to me. And again, I got a couple of bent starbursts in the box waiting to go out. This with the grip up top really makes it a comfortable knife. I mean, you could actually use this without any hot spots, without any worry. It's no anno, so no fingerprints to worry about. You pull it out, it always looks clean. And it's just something to think about when, buying and having a knife. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Definite keepers. I don't know if I would ever get rid of those 5. Even if I can make money on them, I don't think I would get rid of them. So the next knife I'm torn between going to, I think I'm going to go with the Shirogorov. And I want to talk about Shirogorov. They do such a nice knife and such a nice job making their knives that I don't think it matters which Shirogorov I have in my collection as long as I have one. This is a Hattie NL, which has the inlay, and I'm going to post a video later on today showcasing the difference. But see the carbon fiber inlay here? A typical Hattie only has the carbon fiber on the top scale, the show scale. It doesn't have one on the inlay on the lock bar. And that's what makes this knife so special. The action's great. It is a little slim for my hands, and I'm not sure if that's going to take its place as my one and only keeper versus possibly this beautiful F95 RNL. Now, my buddy Corey is going to snatch this one up from me, and I'm not excited about that, but it's going to good hands, so I definitely won't be too mad. But this guy is comfortable as hell. Great in the pocket. Thin, but not too slim. Great deployment. The lock bar doesn't get in the way. Great knife. I also have a beat on a Shirogorov F3R. And, something I talk about in the video I'm going to deploy is the older style jimping really speaks to me over the F95 NL that came out recently with the jungle and the Arctic and the lightning. That jimping's kind of bougie. Yeah, it looks cool, but it doesn't really give you any functionality. And the stupid flipper tab that has that jimping, it hurts my fucking finger. I mean, not like it really matters, because if you pocket the knife, you're not flipping it constantly. But I'll tell you, when you do flick it constantly, it gets irritated. And, the hell, you want to buy a knife that's going to be a keeper, that's going to be comfortable. The F95R and L with the older pattern, the Blackwood, or the Hattie with the NL, that jimping style really speaks to me. So is this particular Hattie going to be a keeper? I'm probably going to lean towards no. But will a 95mm Shirogorov with the older style jimping be a forever keeper? Yes. I'm just haven't decided if it's going to be F95 R and L older style, or an F3R. And to be honest, I might lean towards the F3R, but if I decide to keep that F95 R and L, I don't think I would be disappointed at all. So the next knife I want to talk about is this beautiful, beautiful Skiff Accomplice. I mean, it is fantastic. And I'm going to be honest, this is no knock to any of the knives on the table, but the way I describe the Skiff is, it is the knife that is the best at being a knife. This thing is a freaking tank. And if you haven't owned Chris Reeves knife, you can't appreciate what a bank vault lockup and what they mean by that. And then you talk to people that describe skiffs, and they say it's the flipper. Chris Reeve. If Chris Reeve made a flipper, it would be a skiff. And you don't really get that. You don't know what that is. I mean, you look at this knife without knowing. You look at the drifter, you look at the culprit. You're like, okay, it's a titanium mill with a really big pivot and an interesting blade shape with some nice, blade grind. Skiff makes bearings, so they got to have a good action. All right, is it worth it? And my answer is yes. This knife is awesome. My buddy Stefan gave me a hell of a deal. There is a list a half a mile long for people wanting to get this knife. And it just looks beautiful. This bronze ano, the full backspacer, or, the backspacer. So this originally came with just the standoffs, no backspacer. But I guess Steve, my buddy Stefan, sent it back in and had the backspacer put in. And it just glows. The one thing that you could say that's not a knock on this knife, because it's how the designer and the maker wants it to be, is that it doesn't drop shut. Now, you could shake shut. You could give it a nice, help on the drop. But it doesn't drop shut. And that's okay. It really is. I keep telling myself that every time I do that. But you see all the knives here. The BBN doesn't drop immediate shut, but basically everything else does. And I'm really enjoying that type of action. But it's not going to deter me from enjoying a knife that's as well put together as the Skiff Accomplice. And that's why, even though I kind of fight with myself every day about, is it a keeper, is it not a keeper, I'm going to tell you that freaking knife isn't going anywhere. And I'm really happy that I got it in my collection. Now, I got a couple of other knives that I want to talk about. I guess you know, like I talk about the Shirogorovs, I feel like the Konig Arius is in that same category. They make such great knives with such different variations that it's hard to determine which one is going to be that forever keeper. This is a Style 57, and it is beautiful. It's got a hand rub blade. I don't know if the camera gonna let you see that, but beautiful hand rub blade, and the action is just phenomenal on this thing. Absolutely phenomenal. Butter, just butter. Look at that knife drop. I mean, butter. Ah! But you don't have to spend $1,100 to get that action. You could grab one of my regular plain Janes, and you could get that same action in this same footprint. So it's a torn with me because I've got a polished chamfered version that's out of control, and I love it. It's a Gen 4 batch 4, and you want to laugh. This is how much of an idiot we are. When you have 12 different Koenigs in different variations, batch 3, batch 4, polish, you can almost hear the difference between the generations. And this frickin' version is absolutely my favorite acoustics. That sound isn't the same sound as this. I don't know why. But this one just sounds better to me. This is that polished transferred, oh, just a PJ. No, it's not. It's got the stonewash backspacer, polished pivots, the bright wash blade, and as you can see, those handles are nice and shiny, very similar to the nice and shiny handles on the 57. So, moral of the story is, I don't have one Arius that I consider as my one and only Arius. Believe it or not, I got a beat on a carbon fiber one, a Gen 4. I'd love to get my hands on, and I'd love to see how it compares to my favorite, the polished chamfer's version. My buddy Corey, who's supposed to buy the Blackwood, is supposed to buy this 57, and if he doesn't, I'm not going to complain about it because that is a beautiful knife. I don't know if I could sell the polished chamfered to keep the 57. But either one of these would be a fantastic knife for the collection, and you keep the plain Jane as your user, but we'll make that decision when the time comes. All right, another honorable mention has to go to the CKF Rotten Evo 2.0. If you laugh, last night I was just sitting on the couch doing this. Just this. I mean, these really live up to the hype. This is the plain Jane titanium version, and I actually like this better than the carbon fiber. I've had the black TIs, dark TIs. They're great. Nothing wrong with them. And this is great. I just absolutely love it. Now, this is a Juan Tortilla aftermarket pocket clip, and it's fucking stunning. Just stunning. And I think this one's going to hang around a lot longer than the other guys that I've had. Maybe just for the clip. Maybe because it goes so well with the titanium. Maybe because that's serial number 40. It's early. The lockup is great. The action's great. And I don't have to touch it. And I think that's going to be a keeper that joins the skull. Another honorable mention. You can't do this without mentioning a Vero. One of the guys that really got me into the level of collection that I have. That's why I've got my Vero sticker, and I've got my Vero fulcrum, and I've got the brand new Vero Isotope. One of the knocks I had on the Impulse that I love so much was its Tanto blade. Joseph didn't make a Tanto or a drop point blade in titanium up until the this guy. The Synops had the bolster lock, the Accent had the sheep's foot blade. The mini Impulse was a Tonto. Isotope really has the blade shape that I prefer. As you can see, I think the only one that's modified the sheep's foot or the Warncliffe is the Cortex, and that's just because it's so much fun to play with. But that's also the reason why I bought an LHCX V1, because that blade shape really speaks to me. So this thing's a little stiff. Don't let that fool you. I have just gotten it. I took apart my red one, and maybe I'll get that on the camera just so you can see. Once you take them apart, you lube them up. They really do work out nicely. Here's the red one. Woo! Come on. Yeah. So, once you get them set up and tuned, they're a fucking dream. They're stupid. They're stupid. And look at, you can Spidey flick it too. There was no reason for me, for them to keep the half a fuller on the top side. I mean, this knife just, I think it's going to join this collection. Yeah, I love a big blade. One of my favorite knives to carry for work use is a Police 4, and that's got a blade that's a little over 4 inches. This is, I think, 4 inches, 3.89. It is right there, and it is a great user. I'm very, very excited to see about putting this thing through its paces. And, you know, once I get done breaking down the black one, I'm sure it ain't going to be as stiff as the red one. And maybe I'll throw some skiffs in it. Maybe I'll not. We'll see how I'm feeling. Again, a couple of the other keepers I just want to touch upon. I did that video recently of the other Robert Carter, Nick Chopin collaboration. This is the Mark 1. And I compared this to the Mini Goblin. And when you talk to somebody about a Mini Goblin, that's kind of like a grail knife for some people. So it was very interesting to see how this guy held up in comparison to that knife. And it's fantastic. I mean, it really, really is. I don't know if it's going to take the place of some of the other knives here. You know, do I need another flipper? I mean, I got Accomplice. I've got the Specter. I've got the Rika, the LHCX V2 or V1, and the Shirogorov, and the Ariuses. Do I need another flipper-only method? And I'm going to probably say no. And that's the only caveat about not keeping that knife. It is not because it's not a baller knife. It is. If I had it, I would carry it. I would use it. Fantastic. The blade grind on this thing is out of control. Again, Tonto is not one of my favorites to be a user because I have a shit time sharpening it, but that's a me problem, not the knife problem. And then the last knife that's part of my keeper brigade right now would be my Simeon. This is the Simeon Yeti flipper. It's got the multiple deployments, and it is a ball. I mean, just got this thing tuned so nicely. And, you know, I want to just talk on something real quick. And it's not a knock to Jamie Simeon because he makes a fantastic knife. This is beautiful. I just want to talk about this. I don't talk about it enough. Where the detent catches the blade, it's so well done on the BBM that when I play with the Simeon, it almost feels, I don't want to call it clunky because I've got this thing tuned so nice now. But, I mean, just this locking mechanism to where it engages with the detent. If I didn't have a BBM, this thing would be tits. But when you compare it against a BBM, it is so amazing about how well the Robert Carter design really allowed the detent to lock right in place with the blade. I mean, it is so high. I have never seen a detent ball so high. It's there, right there. I mean, here, it's already engaged. There's no space. It's right there. And that ramp is just perfect. I mean, I freaking love it. So that's why I'm not sure if the Simeon is going to be the one that stays. It's got a little bit of lock stick, so I talked to Jamie, said he'll take care of that. I've got an Unto coming, which is the little bit bigger Spidey hole version of that. Should be here next week. I can't wait to have it on the channel. I have my Tough Knives. That is bit and fixed by Jeff at Tough Knives. I mean, if you had any reservations about picking up a knife from Tough Knives, Jeff over there really took care of me. I got to give him a really great accolade for taking his knife back and tuning it up for me. I purchased it used, and I think the previous owner just didn't have it set up right, and had a lot of lock stick. But it's cool too, because he puts his cell phone number on the website. You got a problem, don't hit him up on Instagram, call him. I spent 25 minutes talking to this dude. We like the same thing. We talk about shit passionately, and I would certainly recommend a Tough Knives if you get a chance to get your hands on one. Nope. That's the collection. That's my opinions. Those are some of my favorites. It is getting very, very, very difficult to determine what knives are my favorite. When you look at the level of quality and you look at each one individually, I mean, the Rika is definitely the best looker. The BBM and the Cortex are by far the most fun to play with. The Skiff, I could just make it bomb-proof. You put that thing in your pocket, you can conquer the world. The Specter, it's like you got all the class, now you're 007, you got a Specter in your pocket, you're doing good. The Shirogorov, I'm telling you, that is another knife that I would not have any reservations about doing any test that I want that day. And then the Arius, that if it had a little bit deeper pocket clip, I feel more safe about bringing that shit out. But he stays in the safe a little bit more. Those pretty polished scales and the plain titanium, even the milling, you don't want to bang those up. I really want a DLC Gen 4. I would rock the shit out of that, and I would carry that every day because that would make a fantastic user. And I'll get there, and that's why I keep talking about these Ariuses as knives that are great, but I'm not sure these particular models are going to be the ones that stay in my safe forever. So I appreciate it. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, make sure you comment, and looking forward to getting at you the next go around.